Today we're looking at the Canon 100 to 400 5.6-8 USM lens. And just look at the size of this thing. This thing is small, dang near fits in the palm of my hand. I've been shooting with it for a few months now. I've taken well over 10,000 images. So we're going to dive into some of the ergonomics and the pros and cons. So it's a very small lens, just over 7 inches long and just over 2.5 pounds. Can't really get any lighter than that for a 100 to 400 telephoto lens. Primary uses are going to be for wildlife, telephoto landscapes, some sports, mostly outdoor sports, not really indoor sports. I don't think it's a fast enough lens for that. Let's go ahead and dive into some of the details. The build quality feels pretty solid, although it is not weather sealed. I have used it in the rain a few times. I just make sure before I retract it to always dry off this cylinder here. I keep a little cotton towel on me for that situation, but I've used it in the rain a few times and have not had any problems with it. I did pick up an aftermarket lens hood. I'll link this down in the description. This lens does have image stabilization, about 5.5 stops, and I have to say it works very well. I've handheld it at 300th of a second with no handshake coming through in the images at all. The autofocus works really good when paired with my Canon R10 and my RP. It's really snappy. The motor's really quiet. The color rendition of the lens is good. The bokeh is really creamy and beautiful, and it can take some pretty sharp pictures. If you look at this one here, you can pretty much count the eyelashes on this deer. One thing that I really like about this lens that was quite shocking and a surprise is the minimal focusing distance, and that is just over 2.5 feet. And when doing that, you can walk around and get some handheld pseudo macro shots. The magnification is 0.4, so almost half, and that has just been a blast. I can see a flower or something from 10 feet away, zoom in and get a nice pseudo macro shot, and you can see at that closeness with this telephoto, you can get some really creamy bokeh and just really isolate your subject. Really surprising this lens can focus so close, and I've been really happy with that and having a lot of fun with it. The aperture on 100 is 5.6. And at 400, zoomed all the way in, is f8, which is one of the cons of this lens. Doesn't let in a lot of light, so let's just dive right into that con. This lens can take some really good images, but it's going to make you work for it. For the last 10 years, I've shot with a Sigma 50 to 500, and it was 6.3 at 500 millimeters. And this lens takes just about as good an image quality, but you need a little better light. And as I said, this lens will make you work for it. You're going to have to be in a little bit better situations. You're going to have to get a little closer to your critters, fill the frame a little more to get that really good quality. But if you master this guy here, when you do go out and spend a couple $1,000s on your L series lens, you're just going to be that much better and that much more prepared to get those super quality shots. I do believe this is an excellent beginner lens for anyone dipping their toe in the wildlife and sports photography. And even if you have an L series lens, if you're going on some longer trips, some long day hikes and such, I think this lens would be a good buy to just lighten up your pack. I mean, 2.5 pounds practically fits in your hand. I can handhold this thing all day long, walk around with it, have it hanging on my neck. I don't come home with that sore neck, sore shoulder, sore back. I'm really enjoying it. Do I want an L series? Yes, but until I can afford one, this will definitely get me by, and I will still be using this lens after I buy one for those longer trips. So getting into the pros, the size, the weight, and the cost, and the image quality you get at that cost, I consider to be pretty dang good. My last wildlife lens was around $1,500. This costs $500. And I don't think you're going to find a better lens on the market to get in the wildlife photography or lighten up your pack at that price tag. I don't know how Canon did it, but I've really been impressed with this lens.